In February 1909, around a month after the first newspaper reports about the Jersey Devil were published, the Maryland-based Middletown Valley Register published a report about a local who'd encountered a terrifying creature known as the Snallygaster. Said to have enormous wings, a long pointed bill, claws like steel hooks, and an eye in the center of its forehead, the creature soon sparked a local media frenzy, with dozens of other accounts flooding into local papers. Descriptions of the creature varied, making it hard to know exactly what it was supposed to look like. Most commonly, it was said to be part bird, part reptile, with massive wings and a thirst for blood. Unlike other better-known cryptids, the story of the Snallygaster never spread very far. Perhaps people who heard about the Jersey Devil just a month earlier immediately recognized the Snallygaster as a hoax, or perhaps there was another reason. Those initial reports of Snallygaster sightings carried certain political undertones that weren't present in other cryptid stories. The first register report just so happened to go out on February 12th, the same day the NAACP was formed, and carried the title, "The Colored People Are in Great Danger." The article went on to say, "This vampire devil only attacks colored people. It is seldom seen during the day, feeding at night only, and the strange part is that it seems to prefer colored men to colored women, though it attacks the latter at times." Another report at the time called it an omen of ill for colored voters who deserted the Republican Party in the presidential election. The purpose of the Snallygaster was explicit. It was meant to discourage black residents from pursuing political activity and representation, and even scare them away from going out at night. In fact, the entire Snallygaster affair was acutely indicative of the larger political and racial tensions of the time. Though Maryland had not supported the Confederacy during the Civil War, it had still permitted slaves and been somewhat sympathetic to the Southern cause. More importantly, Maryland was still run by a pro-white Democratic Party that had just 6 years earlier proclaimed that the political destinies of Maryland should be shaped and controlled by the white people of the state, and that the black vote was ignorant, corrupt, the blind instrument of unscrupulous and selfish leaders. So while the Snallygaster had much in common with its contemporary cryptid from New Jersey, the overt political and racist messaging surrounding it cast a much darker shadow over what was otherwise a frivolous monster story. Today, Maryland has largely reclaimed the legend and celebrates it as part of the state's history, but it's not difficult to see why the Snallygaster never garnered the same broad cultural appeal as Bigfoot or the Jersey Devil. You're listening to History Uncovered, brought to you by the digital publisher All That's Interesting, where we explore the uncharted corners of the natural world and the world past. I'm All That's Interesting staff writer Austin Harvey.
And I'm All That's Interesting staff writer Kalina Fraga.
Today, we're exploring the myth of the Snallygaster and the dark bigotry behind it.
Oh, huh. Wasn't expecting that.
Right? It's a little twist.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it either, because I hear the word Snallygaster. I assume it's a monster of some kind.
I assume kind of an adorable monster. I don't know why, just from its name.
Yeah, you'd think it's not. It's apparently very scary.
It sounds like a Pokemon.
It does kind of sound like a Pokemon.
Snallygaster.
So I divided this up into a couple different, sort of into like three sections. The first one, we're just going to talk about like the general myth in sort of like a, if you picked up a book of like American cryptids.
Okay.
What would it say about the Snallygaster?
Curious to know.
And then we'll go over like the sort of frenzy, the historical accounts, sort of like what happened with the Jersey Devil phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I'll get into the why is this a racist thing?
Okay, sounds good.
Cool. So the legend itself kind of dates back to the 1730s when German immigrants settled in the Middletown Valley of Frederick County, Maryland, or what would become Frederick County, Maryland. They, a lot of people came over. They brought folklore with them. We've talked, I think, before about like Irish folklore, things like that. German folklore was very focused on like witches and demons and dragons. And they talked about this thing which they called the Snallygaster, or quick ghost. And it was this monster that supposedly quickly pounced up on its prey. And over the course of the 18th and 19th centuries, there were like occasional I don't even know if we could call them accounts. They were just stories, right? That people were sharing, campfire stories or like boogeyman stories, the Snallygaster, he's going to get you sort of deal.
Yeah.
They commonly described it as is looking something like a half bird, half reptile, big wings, metallic beak, sharp teeth, steel claws, kind of standard fare big monster stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There were a couple times people described it as having like one giant eye, which is kind of weird for a bird creature. That's not
scary.
typically,
Yeah,
it's a little spooky. Other people said it had a tentacle-like tongue that it used to drain the blood of its prey.
Also spooky.
Also spooky. They likened the sound it made to something sort of like a train whistle or like a locomotive. So, I mean, we're talking standard monster stuff. I don't think it's anything like that out of the ordinary for
Except he's so quick. Schnella.
Yeah. They said it lived in the South Mountain and it only emerged at night. And to ward off the beast, farmers would paint 7 pointed stars on barns and outbuildings, which was, I think it was more of like a general sign of protection. I don't think it was specific to the Snallygaster.
Okay.
But yeah, sort of just a general folk sign of protection. And for the most part, that's all this thing was up until the early 20th century when the anglicized Snallygaster started breaking into mainstream newspaper reporting.
That's funny. Snallygaster comes from Schnellergeist.
Schnellergeist, yeah.
That's really funny, huh? Okay.
It is, yeah, because you could just call it the Schnellergeist, but they're like, the Snallygaster.
Yeah.
Like, okay. You made it sound, like you said, very cute, almost.
Yeah.
So, funnily enough, the phenomenon about this started a month after the Jersey Devil was first reported in a newspaper.
Curious.
Very curious. Almost as if someone was like, we have one of those too.
Or this sells newspapers. Let's do it.
Yeah, we're trying to get in on this. So the first report was on February 12th, 1909. The Middletown Valley Register published a letter which described a terrifying creature in the region. They said it had, quote, enormous wings, a long pointed bill, claws like steel hooks, and an eye in the center of its forehead. The report of this initial attack said that a local man by the name of Bill Jefferson had been attacked by a winged creature while walking home, which then carried him up to a hill, slashed his jugular with its beak, drained his blood, and then dumped his lifeless body in a ravine.
Oof. Yikes.
Pretty brutal.
Yeah.
I don't know if this guy ever existed or was ever killed.
Uh-huh.
I didn't dig in to see if there was an obituary to Bill Jefferson, which maybe is a flaw on my end, but also like pretty obvious to many people. And maybe this is why the Jersey Devil legend is so much more popular. I think people immediately clocked this one as a hoax.
Oh.
I don't think anyone actually believed it, whereas I think many people did sort of believe in the Jersey Devil thing because there was physical evidence there. There were some like footprints in the snow that were kind of weird, and the Pine Barrens is a very big forest, so it's like, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah. Huh.
But regardless, similar sightings, quote unquote, did quickly spread. In the Maryland region, they made it to Frederick, to Hagerstown, kind of to Washington, D.C., eventually Baltimore. Never really breached state boundaries. The second report came March 5th, so about a month later. Another Register report shared the account of someone named, of several residents. Ed Brown, Dan Shore, but Bill Snyder, and then the deputy sheriff, Norman Hoke, who apparently fought the Snallygaster for an hour and a half.
Altogether, they fought the Snallygaster?
The account reads, the monster seized Ed Brown and was about to fly off with him when Bill Snyder, who dashed up in his automobile, grabbed Brown by the foot, which broke his suspenders, and he dropped to the ground.
Wow.
Ghost-like wings beat the air, and fire singed the pike. Dreadful bristles stuck from the monster's snout, and its hide the color of the downside of a catfish. It looks like a giraffe on roller skates, said Mr. Snyder. Its beak was serrated with great tusks, and between them lay the partially consumed flesh of a colored man, nearly putrid. Its snout resembled a silo, and from the corners of its mouth leaked a fluid like melted brimstone.
Wow, that's quite a description.
It is very,
Melted brimstone.
it's very intense.
Yeah.
This encounter they had, allegedly.
And they all said this happened, a group of people.
Presumably. The newspaper published it that way, and I didn't see any.
It must be true then.
It must be true.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, some of these accounts were like more sensational than others. This one's actually ridiculous. A man claimed to have stumbled across the Snallygaster as it was drinking from a 100-gallon tub of water. And he claimed that the monster looked at him and said, I'm dry. I haven't had a good drink since I was killed in the Battle of Chickamauga.
Wow.
As if this were also a Civil War soldier.
Conflating, it seems like, of different things all of a sudden. And it talks, which is also new.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Almost like, it was like almost like a catch-all for just like, I saw something scary in the woods.
Yeah.
But either that or this thing fought at the Battle of Chickamauga, and we're now learning that for the first time. Eventually, it wasn't just the Register. Another newspaper, the Hagerstown Mail, also reported that the Smithsonian had apparently attempted to classify the creature.
Okay.
I don't know if that's true either. I haven't seen anything from the Smithsonian saying they were trying to. But the Hagerstown Mail said they did. And they wrote, the Hagerstown Mail published, quote, "They write back that it is either a winged Bovulopus or a Snallygaster, as it has some characteristics of both. These animals are exceedingly rare, and the hide of the Snallygaster is said to be worth $100,000 a square foot, as it is the only thing known that will properly polish punctal shells used by Africans of Mbopenland for ornaments."
Wow, there's a lot going on there.
There's a lot. A lot going on there that I am not familiar with.
Yeah, it's wild.
By July of that year, the Valley Register had published another report about an alleged scientific expedition that set out to find the Snallygaster's lair, during which they said the beast burst out of the ground and then flew off toward Virginia.
Wow.
News eventually reached Baltimore. But like I said, no one really bought into it because it was so over the top. I think the Jersey Devil thing works better because it was at least somewhat believable that, like, oh, there's this giant forest. Maybe there's this weird flying kind of goat creature. I think like hammerhead bats. I think I might have mentioned this in that episode. Hammerhead bats kind of look like what you'd think the Jersey Devil looks like.
Oh, okay.
I've never seen any actual correlation between those two things other than like me looking at them both and being like, they look alike. But regardless, not that unbelievable. And then the witchcraft stuff sort of creeped in to that story. This one, they're just hitting the ground running. They're like, it was breathing fire. We fought it. It's
yeah, pretty intense monster.
It kind of died down for a bit too, over the next decade. And then in 1923, a Middletown resident named Charles Maine, and the newspaper noted, of Maine's ice cream.
Oh.
If any Maryland listeners are out there and Maine's ice cream is still around, Charles Maine of Maine's ice cream described encountering the Snallygaster. He said it had a 14-foot wingspan, octopus-like tentacles that retracted, and enormous talons.
Wow.
A decade after that, in 1932, there was a famous story of the Snallygaster's death that began circulating. They said that it was lured by a moonshine still, then overcome by the fumes, and that it drowned in a vat of alcohol.
Oh.
And they also claimed that its corpse was then taken by federal prohibition agents.
Of course. So there's only, in legend, there's only one Snallygaster. It's not like there's like multiple of them in the... Okay, got it.
Yeah, I do believe, and I might make mention of it later on in the outline here, but I do believe they said after the original one died, or maybe before it, that it had a hatchling that was running around as well.
Of course.
So presumably another Snallygaster,
yeah.
But the original one apparently died in 1932, and federal prohibition agents found it because it was in a moonshine vat.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So it's a very weird, bizarre sort of cryptid myth story. And that makes it even weirder when you consider what we're about to get into, which is all of these, like, I'm not even going to call them undertones, racist overtones. And it's not that the monster is like a racist depiction or meant to symbolize anything. It's
Mm-hmm.
literally that from the get-go, the articles claimed that the Snallygaster only attacked, this is in quotes, quote, only attacked colored people, end quote.
Were the group of people, including the sheriff's deputy, people of
They're all
color?
white.
Oh, okay.
They're all white. So sort of conflicting information there.
Yeah, right.
But we'll get into what this is all about. So February 12th, 1909, the first Snallygaster report happened to also be the day the NAACP was founded.
Interesting.
And one of the initial stories run about the Snallygaster had the title, "The Colored People Are in Great Danger." In the article, they wrote, "This vampire devil only attacks colored people. It is seldom seen during the day, feeding at night only, and the strange part is that it seems to prefer colored men to colored women, though it attacks the latter at times."
Huh. I'm kind of stuck on that headline.
Mm-hmm.
The colored people are in great danger. I feel like in 1909 there were far greater dangers than the Snallygaster, but all right.
Mm-hmm. Another article from that same period quoted an eyewitness who said the Snallygaster was an omen of ill for colored voters who deserted the Republican Party in the presidential election.
Voters who deserted the Republican Party. This is 1909 still?
This is 1909.
Interesting. I'm trying to remember.
They are blatantly claiming that if you're a black person in this part of Maryland in 1909 and you did not vote Republican, that or you don't or choose not to vote Republican, that the Snallygaster is going to come get you.
As I'm processing this, because Republicans still at the time were like the party of Lincoln. So probably most like black Americans at the time were probably voting Republican. So to say that if they didn't vote Republican, the Snallygaster would attack them makes it sound like
they're being coerced into voting. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Curious. Okay.
Which is interesting because simultaneously there's other reports that are coming in from more Democratic leaning publications at the time that are saying, like, don't go out at night. If you're black, don't go out at night because this is going to kill you.
Wow.
Like they're exercising, like it's intimidation.
Yeah.
Intimidation.
Sounds like from both sides, Republicans and Democrats. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really interesting considering Maryland was not a part of the Confederacy. It was a border state, but it did also permit slavery still.
Mm-hmm. That's where Booth was from, I think.
I think you're right. So there is sort of an interesting political dichotomy here, where it's like there's a lot of Democratic sympathy, and it was, I think, at this point controlled by Democrats as well. And I'm trying not to harp on the terminology. This is 1909 Democrats. That is basically a different political party,
right?
That were more pro-Confederacy, pro-slavery, and the Republicans were the ones who put an end to that. But just to show how like blatant this was, in 1903, the Maryland Democratic Platform explicitly said the political destinies of Maryland should be shaped and controlled by the white people of the state. The black vote was ignorant, corrupt, the blind instrument of unscrupulous and selfish leaders, and posed a perpetual menace to the prosperity and peace of Maryland.
Yeah, this sounds like Reconstruction is over, which it was by this point. Yeah, this is the backlash.
Yeah. Just before that report about the death of the Snallygaster, the Register released a report that its hatchling was on the loose, once again issuing a warning to black citizens saying, some persons who saw the monster believe that it is an omen of evil as a result of the recent election. One man stated that he believed the beast was an omen of ill for colored voters who deserted the Republican Party in the presidential election and voted for Roosevelt. Of course, it is needless to say that this man was an ardent Hoover supporter.
Wait, this is much later than 1909. This is in the 40s.
This was the 1930s. 1930s.
Okay.
Just before the death of the Snallygaster one.
I was like,
which was 1932.
Was a Republican, but now we're talking about Franklin Roosevelt.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
As the political tide was shifting. Sorry, I should have made that timeline clear. 1932 was the death of the Snallygaster, so this was just before that.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. Because then, FDR is a Democrat, and
right. Which Hoover. I think is probably when a lot of those political tides started to shift in terms of allegiance. So it started off being like black people are in danger. By the 1930s, it was like, and also specifically the ones who voted Democrat this time.
Wow, that's so interesting. I assumed that when we first started talking about this, and you said like this was like a German ghost, I thought this was gonna be like an anti-German immigrant story. Right. It's not expecting the turn that it took.
Yeah, it kind of just got co-opted by some racist newspaper reporters who were trying to scare black folk. Charles Maine of Maine's Ice Cream, his encounter with the Snallygaster actually was published later that same year, November 1932. But this is sort of where the Snallygaster tale took a turn and stopped being specifically about race. His tale, his recounting of the tale was a lot more comedic. And he said that the Snallygaster swooped down and like buzzed to the top of his head and that it was not growing back because of the Snallygaster.
His hair wouldn't grow back?
Yeah.
Oh.
Like, I think he was going bald.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, the Snallygaster took my hair.
That's the reason.
That's the reason.
Wow.
And so people were like, oh, that's kind of funny. Not everyone was. Some people were like, I don't think we should be writing these fear-mongering stories about monsters anyway. But for the majority, I think people saw that and were like, ha, that's pretty funny. And after that, it stopped being used as like a racial intimidation thing. Between the 40s and the 70s, they kept publishing stories, but they were more comedic and less serious. It kind of got big again in the 60s when the Bigfoot sightings took off, but otherwise it's kind of just whatever. Today they've like it's reclaimed. It doesn't have those racist ties anymore. They hold a Snallygaster festival in Washington D.C. As well, which I was surprised to learn. But
very cute.
Yeah.
Wow.
It has a happy ending. The story came around. Now everyone's just like, what a silly little monster guy.
Yeah. When you first started describing it, I thought it sounded like an animal that's come up in similar stories, which is like, I don't know if it's the barned owl, but like, and like some of the alien stories we've discussed or monster stories, sometimes like an explanation is an owl attack because they're very aggressive. You can't really see at night when they're attacking you, and they have like these talons and big wings make them look bigger.
Yeah, that was what was that UFO case? The one where they were like drunkenly
Kelly Hopkinsville.
Yeah. And then I think the La Lechuza one as well, that one blatantly looks like an owl. But
yeah, a lot of these like monsters, it's like, oh, maybe. And when you were first talking about the first guy who was attacked by something from the sky, I was like, oh, maybe an owl. And then it was like, and then his blood was drained and he was like found in a ravine. Yeah. And I was like, oh, maybe not. But
I think, from the get-go, the stories are pretty sensationalist, where it's like, it was breathing fire and spitting liquid acid at us. And you're like, whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Was there evidence?
What was the term they used about how it...
Like it was leaking liquid brimstone?
Melted brimstone. That was...
Melted brimstone.
Very descriptive, yeah.
Yeah. You have to imagine that these reporters were just like, sure.
Right.
I believe you.
Let's print it. All the news is fit to print.
Yeah, no one went out and they were like, so where was that puddle of brimstone you said?
Right. I mean, they had Charles Maine's hair disappear. That was
That's true.
Factual, maybe.
Yeah. But, it's, I went into this just being like, I looked at, Google Snallygaster, look at the pictures. I'm like, freaky.
Yeah.
And then I kept seeing like a lot of more contemporary writing of people being like the racist history of, and I was like, what?
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
was like, that seems so bizarre. Because I've never, and maybe this is me just not looking enough into things, but I'm someone who's like, since I was a teenager, I've kind of spent a lot of time online reading about cryptids and alien stuff. Like, I always thought it was interesting, modern mythology or folklore. Have we ever mentioned the squonk on this show?
I was just thinking about it. I think we may have.
I think we might have. The squonk's like my favorite little guy. He's just a sad little creature that lives in the woods of PA, apparently.
That's what I thought this was going to be like.
Right, you'd think. And then it's like, no, it turns out that someone, what I think happened is someone heard about this Jersey Devil thing. They were like, papers are flying off the shelves. We got to get ourselves one of those.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, yeah, you ever heard of that Snallygaster thing? And they're like, no, what is that? Let's print it. Also, we don't want black people voting. So we can
use the Snallygaster.
Based on that 1903 proclamation, when they said that black people were ignorant and corrupt and stupid, it almost felt like they were like, yeah, we can convince them this is real and scare them into staying home and not going out and presumably not voting. And
I think that came out of like after the Civil War, there was like black suffrage, so black people could vote. And in like southern states, they were like, oh no, because there's a huge voting block. So instead of trying to like, win over new voters, they were like, let's just intimidate or harass or murder people or invent monsters, I guess.
Yeah. And Maryland's not that far south, but it seems like there was enough like Confederate sympathy.
Absolutely, yeah.
That it was still very much lingering.
Yeah.
Bummer to realize that it went up to the 1930s. Not surprising.
The Snallygaster or the intimidation?
I guess both.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just sort of the like, damn, black people voted for Roosevelt, so I guess they're going to get Snallygastered again. It's like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Snallygaster. Not what I was expecting at all.
No, it's a unique sort of cryptid mythology story. Like we talk about like the jackalope, and it's just like some guys put horns on a rabbit head.
Right. And then like, everyone went crazy for it.
Yeah. They're not like, and also the jackalope really likes to eat Asian people. And you're like, oh, God.
Yeah. Usually these are a lot more lighthearted.
Yeah. And it still is to a degree because like.
Because it's ridiculous.
Imagine reading that newspaper in like in 1909 and being like, what?
Right. Yeah. I love the idea that like maybe the Jersey Devil was this really big story and some editor was like, hey guys, go out into these towns and find out what other like monsters are around. And they found some like, German Americans who are like, well, there's this thing called the Snallygaster. And he's like, yes, tell me more.
Yeah. Like, I can't understand your accent. What are you saying?
Yeah.
Snallygaster?
We shall call it a Snallygaster.
I'm trying to see. When was the jackalope? When did that happen? That was the 1930s. So
not a lot to do in the 1930s except make up monsters, maybe.
Make up monsters, yeah. I mean, I'm wondering how many. I don't think a lot of like cryptids predate the 20th century. Some of them are way more recent than I thought. The bat squatch is from the 1980s. Huh. You want to guess what the bat squatch is?
Maybe it has more to do with like info like spreading in different ways. Like newspapers could spread these stories, or like in the 80s, television or whatever, and then the internet cryptids. And
yeah, because the big thing with Bigfoot was that Patterson-Gimlin footage, which was like, whoa.
When was that?
60 something.
Yeah.
I want to say 63. I could be wrong on that, but early 60s. When around the time people were getting their hands on like handheld cameras that you could buy at a reasonable price.
It's kind of interesting because you would think like with cameras, stories of cryptids and monsters would like go away, but actually I don't know if they've increased, but they've stayed like the same. Like people are like, oh, I have footage or I have a photo or a footprint or something.
Now it's all aliens for the most part.
A lot of aliens, yeah. But there's like Bigfoot sightings and...
That's true, yeah.
Even, what's that one that looks like pants?
The Fresno Nightcrawlers. That was on like home security footage, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it is. Every time there's a new big jump in technology, there is like a story of some creature to accompany it. Because even the Yeti, which predated Bigfoot, was like, oh, we have cameras now.
Yeah.
And so we can take pictures, and I think a lot of people were like, well, you can't fake that.
Right.
Like the Patterson-Gimlin footage being so shaky, they were like, that's not like, that doesn't look like a Hollywood movie. So it must be real.
People are a lot more skeptical now. I mean, for good reason.
Yeah, probably just a guy in a monkey outfit, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like the Blair Witch Project probably was like one step of people being like, oh, maybe I shouldn't believe everything I see on a screen. And now obviously with like AI, you can't believe everything you see on a screen. So
yeah. I think you're probably right. I bet Blair Witch did contribute a lot because a lot of people did think that was real still.
That's what they wanted people to think.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the average person is just more aware of filmmaking techniques now.
Right.
And tools.
Mm-hmm.
Like you want to put a UFO in a picture, it's pretty easy to do that just like on your iPhone.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Although like for an older generation, I think stuff on the internet is still pretty convincing. I think, although I don't know that the younger generation is that much more discerning sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. I do see a lot of comments on like videos of AI cats rescuing their owners from the fire. And the people are like, what a brave boy. It's like, it's not real.
Oh, that's funny.
Cats can't do that. I don't know how to tell you that. Cats can't do that.
They want to believe they can. Let them have it.
Let them have this hope.
Today's world. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully everyone listening found this episode as interesting as we did.
It was very interesting. It was interesting on two different levels, like learning about the Snallygaster and then learning about like kind of the political, historical background of it.
Yeah. Two worlds that don't often overlap.
Monsters and politics.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well.
Ha ha ha. Yeah, that was a good one. It's very interesting.
Yeah. I know we promised ghost ships. The week sort of got away from us.
But that's still coming. I think that's the next one.
That is still coming. Yeah. It's a busy time of year.
It is. Yeah, we'll have ghost ships coming up soon. In the meantime, you can always check out our stuff online. We publish things every day at allthat'sinteresting.com. And of course, if you want to get even more from the site, you can sign up for the newsletter at allthat'sinteresting.com/sign-up, or you can even become a member at allthat'sinteresting.com/membership, for which you get things like, I think you said dark mode and no ads.
Mode, dark reading mode on the site, and no ads.
Yeah.
And you support the show, which is, nice.
Also very nice.
Just generally speaking. Yeah, you can also find us on social media. We're on, everything at this point. Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram. We have a subreddit. All That's Interesting, r/all that's interesting.
I think History Uncovered too. It's appeared on I think that's us.
There you go. Yeah, we're all over Facebook. Yeah, we're all over everything. So whatever platform you're on, if you want to stay up to date with what we're publishing and you're not a fan of email inbox checking, if you want to just see us in your feed, follow us there. Be sure to rate the show, leave a nice comment. Let us know what you thought of the Snallygaster. If you're from Maryland, let us know if you've ever actually heard of this before this episode.
Or seen one.
Or seen one.
The hatchling is still out there somewhere.
Apparently. So.
Yeah. If you do have a suggestion, feel free to send it in. You can either leave a voicemail at 929-526-3029 or send us an email at podcast@allthat'sinteresting.com. People have also been leaving comments on Spotify, which occasionally make their way to us as well. So,
yeah, any of the platforms. Or just like at me on Threads or something. I don't know.
Don't at me on Threads. I will not see it.
Yeah, so Ghost Ships coming up next. We will be on top of that this time.
Yes, we will. In the meantime, watch out for the Snallygaster.
Yep, keep your eyes on the skies.